So you would think that Iran hatching up a plot to take down Air Force One would be the subject of the story, right? After all, we're talking about a foreign nation attempting to assassinate the President of the United States. I don't know about you, but if I were the editor of a newsroom or a newspaper, the story writes itself. The focus would be on the foreign threat to national security. But when the media saw this story, they made it all about themselves. You see, the media, the journalists, they're the real victims in all of this. Not President Trump, not national security, and definitely not the country. But here's the thing, the media is trying to have it both ways. They're trying to claim that they are the victims in all of this, yet they're also trying to minimize the very real threat to President Trump. Not only are they minimizing it, but they're also mocking it. Just take a look at Rachel Maddow's reaction when the news broke on MSNOW.
Now I'm very pleased to say it's time for the last word with Lawrence O'Donnell, which is more of a pleasure for me to say than usual because the New York Times has just posted a headline on the front page of the New York Times website, which reads, "Trump hid in a catering container to sneak out of Turkey." And honestly, that news has just broken, Trump hiding in a catering cart. And the thing I want most in the world upon hearing that news is to hear Lawrence O'Donnell explain it to me. And God bless you, Lawrence. Please tell me that you will.
It is issue number one in this hour of coverage. We're going to be relying on the Washington Post that broke the story a couple hours before the New York Times. And it's one of the many examples of how Donald Trump has lost control. He didn't just lose control of which version of Air Force One he got to use. He lost complete control in this story.
Absolutely despicable. You can tell they find this all humorous, and it's really funny to them because they want something bad to happen, and they hide it behind these disguises of smirks, right? It's their intellectualism. It's their condescending approach to delivering the news. No wonder their ratings are in the trash. It's just absolutely disgusting. And I guarantee you that if Joe Biden, Barack Obama, or heck, even Bill Clinton had done the same thing, the media would be praising them. The media would be acting as if they're some courageous hero, and they would talk up the threats that they face on a daily basis. Yet, because it's President Trump, because they suffer from TDS, all they have is mockery and condescension. And it wasn't just MSNOW. On Jimmy Fallon, he came out in a food cart and he was holding a McDonald's bag, obviously making fun of President Trump. So here's exactly what happened. And by the way, this happened last month. So when President Trump was in Turkey, the Secret Service identified a very severe threat to Air Force One. So here you can see him. He had just got on Air Force One, but attached to it was this airport catering truck. So Secret Service actually brought him onto that catering truck and they pulled it away. And right next to the main Air Force One was also Air Force C-32. So they used that catering truck to bring Trump to Air Force C-32. And it turns out they left Turkey. They flew to the UK. And even in the UK, President Trump switched planes yet again. So it was a very serious situation, and Secret Service did everything in their power to keep him safe. Specifically, there was a threat that Iran was going to use shoulder-to-air missiles to take down or attempt to take down Air Force One. So obviously, when Secret Service took him off, everyone else was boarding the plane as usual. And by the way, that included some of his cabinet members. According to CBS, on the plane was Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. So they were both on the Decoy flight. The media was also on there as well, and that has turned into this huge controversy. The media right now is acting as if President Trump put those journalists' lives at risk. No, they're not angry at Iran. No, they're not angry at terrorist organizations or terrorist governments. They're angry that the Secret Service did its job, which is to protect the President of the United States. Guess what, media? If you thought the Secret Service was there to protect you, you guessed wrong. That is not their job. It's not even their job to protect cabinet members. Their job is to ensure that we have continuity of government focusing on the president and the vice president. So on the one hand, we have half of the media, MSNOW, and these late night comedians making fun of President Trump, diminishing the very real security threat he faces every day. And then on the other hand, you have outlets like CNN who are oh so outraged and oh so offended that President Trump would personally put these journalists' lives in danger. Just take a look at David Axelrod on CNN.
It was kind of stunning to think that all those on the plane were sort of a decoy there and were not told that the president wasn't on board, and that the deception was continued even after he was safely returned to Washington. And that's hard for me to understand. You know, the reason there's a press pool, you know the reason, and so does Scott. The reason there's a press pool is you always want eyes on the president. There could be a health incident, there could be an unannounced stop, and there need to be people there who can record that so the American people know. And so this habit of giving them the slip is concerning, though the president needs to be protected, and we ought to respect the fact that the president needs to be protected. But this is very unusual, the way they approach this and the secrecy around it.
Oh, it's very unusual? Well, it turns out that two former presidents did pretty much the exact same thing. According to Politico, in 2000, President Bill Clinton flew anonymously aboard an unmarked C-20 Gulfstream into Pakistan. But it wasn't just him. It turns out Obama used another Air Force Gulfstream in the fleet, a standard Gulfstream 5, known in the military as C-37, to take Michelle Obama out for a date in 2009. So President Trump is flying overseas. He's doing diplomatic business. He's trying to handle foreign relations, and he gets a threat from Iran, who has put out multiple threats, not just towards him, but his family members and other cabinet members as well. And the media is outraged that Secret Service is doing its job, yet Barack Obama can do something similar just to take Michelle out on a date, and the media doesn't care at all. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, but it really does highlight the hypocrisy that the media is facing here. And it's not as if those journalists were at any risk. So first of all, what I mean by that is it is a choice. No one is forcing the media to get on Air Force One. No one is forcing them to cover the president. This is something that they choose to do. Maybe because of passion, maybe because, you know, this is part of their career path. But the reality is they have chosen to put themselves in that situation. And if you choose to follow the president, you know that you are putting yourself in danger. The president is always a target, not just President Trump, but every single president before him, 24/7. There are threats all the time. So just even being in his vicinity, you are putting yourself in danger. And guess what? Like I said earlier, the Secret Service, their job is not to protect you. It's not to protect the vicinity around him even. It's to protect him. They are the subjects. And the methodology that the Secret Service uses, well, guess what? It's in the name. It is secret. They don't have to tell you. So the fact that you weren't informed that President Trump was headed off somewhere else doesn't surprise me at all. And in fact, we wouldn't know about this if it weren't for the fact that the media actually leaked this story out to the entire world. So sure, other countries may have guessed that maybe decoys were used, but now we know that for a fact because the media has blown the cover in all of this. Why? Because they want to make it all about themselves, and because, of course, they hate President Trump. Jake Tapper even found a way to make this about himself. He wrote, flew to Afghanistan with a different president on Air Force One. An insurgent missile struck Bagram runway before landing. Now, I want to stop there because you can fact check me if you want, but there is no public report of any insurgent missile hitting a Bagram runway before Air Force One landed. I mean, you can search all you want. I didn't find anything. If you find something, let me know, but found no proof of that. Weather was so bad, planned Marine One trip to Kabul scrubbed. We were with President the whole time. Our safety wasn't treated any differently from his. We were never decoys. Jake Tapper, can you use your brain for a second? You were in the air as this happened. What were they supposed to do? Bring another plane right next to it and have the president jump off of it, jump into a helicopter like James Bond or something? Yeah, right. Also, on top of that, on top of the fact that the journalist willingly put themselves in harm's way, I do want to point out that Air Force One is equipped with state-of-the-art technology, including anti-missile defense systems. The plane itself can evade and shoot down missiles aiming towards it. On top of all of that, it turns out Air Force One was flanked by fighter jets on that very trip, plus the press pool had been instructed to keep their window shades down for the journey, so they definitely were aware that something was going on, because that obviously is not a common occurrence or instruction, otherwise it wouldn't have been noted. So with all of that being said, nothing really stands out to me in regards to the Secret Service's actions. They protected the president, and they did so without proactively endangering anyone else. The media seems to have forgotten that it's Iran who's behind this threat. They're behaving as if President Trump gave this order to shoot down his own plane. It just makes no sense. On CNN, they started talking about illegal orders. Yeah, that talking point is back. It makes you wonder, right? Because just earlier in Trump's term, there was that video of multiple people saying, oh, the military, Secret Service, anyone in law enforcement, you can ignore illegal orders. Yeah, this talking point is back, front and center.
My question is this. If it was not safe for the president to be on that flight, how was it safe for the media to be on that flight? And to be lied to, not to be told the truth. Yeah, again, to be lied to. Because the thing is, it was the U.S. military flying the plane. The U.S. military does not put civilians unknowingly at risk. The president was gone. He wasn't being threatened anymore, presumably. But the civilians on board were still under threat. And the U.S. military, under orders, flew that plane. Somebody needs to tell me why that's a legal order, because it's not what the U.S. military does. And
let me ask you, if the military flies because, you know, all of those people have to leave, the plane is equipped with its own defense system, including anti-missile defense. It's flanked by fighter jets. Is the military actually putting people in danger, or is it the people trying to perpetrate the threat? Like, who's the one actually causing the harm here? I don't see how they were in any danger. Again, the Secret Service, their job is not to protect the media. They're the ones inserting themselves into this story. They're the ones trying to make it all about themselves. And forget the fact that Barack Obama, Bill Clinton did the exact same thing. And in fact, some of the people defending President Trump right now are Secret Service officials from previous administrations, including the Bush administration, Obama-era agents, former acting directors of the Secret Service. So many have come out and said, hey, they did the exact right thing here. And even the Wall Street Journal, we know how unfriendly and tough the Wall Street Journal has been towards President Trump, but they wrote this: Trump's airplane switch follows a familiar presidential playbook. So they're saying there is nothing out of the norm here. What is out of the norm is the media overreaction to all of this hyperbole. They're acting as if President Trump wanted to take them all out. You know, it's another attack on the free press. Forget the fact that White House staffers and administration members, including Marco Rubio and Scott Bessent, were also on the flight. In reality, there probably was very minimal threat to the flight. It was just a fail-safe procedure to, again, distance the president and make sure that there was another layer of safety should a worst-case scenario come to pass. Now, President Trump was actually asked about this, and he gave some interesting answers, but before we get to that, I would like to acknowledge the members of today's Governor's Club. They are Greg Anderson, State of Dade Scruffett, and Moon Fairy 11. These are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you enjoy. While President Trump was asked about, you know, why the media was allowed to ride on Air Force One, and he said pretty much a lot of what I said here.
President, can you tell us about your ride on the airport catering truck in Turkey? Why did you need to do that?
Well, it's only up to Secret Service. I just follow what they'd like to do. So I go by Secret Service and the military. They wanted me to go on a different flight, a different plane, equal safety, but they wanted me to do it, so I do it. I do what they say.
Why did they want you to do that?
I guess there was a threat out there. I didn't really ask them much about it. I get a lot of threats.
Why was it too dangerous for you to fly on Air Force One, but
well,
not
I don't
too
know.
dangerous
I
for the
think
press?
actually the plane that I flew on was at greater risk.
Why do you say that?
Because that would be the plane I think that they would be more likely to go for.
Yeah, and if there are any leaks, and by the way, this whole story leaked, then Iran would know about the change of plans, right? And that's why Again, secret is in the name, Secret Service. It's supposed to be a secret, but now we have a media who's trying to expose our president clearly to dangers. As always, though, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So what do you think? Do you think the Secret Service did something wrong by not telling the media about the threat and by allowing them to fly on Air Force One? Probably one of the safest planes, if not the safest plane on the world. Or do you think the media is overreacting? I have a feeling what all of you are going to say, but hey, it doesn't hurt. I always love reading differing opinions. So if you think, hey, it was a moral or ethical failure to allow people to ride on Air Force One while there was a threat, I would like to hear your point of view down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you and the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.